DIY elk hunting in a general unit on public lands, solo like I like to attack it, it's the most challenging hunting I've been up against in my hunting career. And even when you draw one of those limited entry permits in a great hunting unit, one of those premier areas where elk are just everywhere, hey, elk still figure out pretty quickly where the hunting pressure is coming from those ATV trails, any road, and they separate themselves quickly from the easy areas and head right to sanctuary. So the secret, my secret, well, it's to hunt hard. Being in good shape is part of that. You don't have to be in Tom Brady-like shape, but you got to be in shape, a little bit better shape than about 74% of the American hunting public. That's the percentage that's overweight and obese. Now, for the past 10 years, I've had good, solid, consistent success, DIY success on public lands using that game plan.
Yes!
Being in shape allows you to follow the elk, and they're going to separate themselves using distance and rough country, straight down deep canyons, straight up vertical ascents until they find a sanctuary where there aren't any hunters, or very few, except you. Even when you reach those neighborhoods where the elk have found a little bit of refuge, it's still not a cakewalk. Those elk are still pretty smart. So what's your next game strategy? Well, it's elk communication. You need to use what they're talking about, and with your calls, make them talk, make them communicate, and that will help you zero in those neighborhoods where they're hiding out. Elk, they use distance, and they use rough country. You know, those steep canyons and vertical straight up ascents through rocks and cliffs to get away from you. Now, you've got to be in shape to get to those neighborhoods to find those elk. But even when you arrive in an elk neighborhood, it's still not easy. Well, you have one game plan still that'll work for you. Elk communication. Elk talking amongst themselves and you sparking up a conversation. Elk, well, they're like you and me. They talk 365 days a year. There's a lot of chatter going on in a herd, especially between cows and calves. Bulls, they bugle 365 days a year, but not quite as often, just occasionally during the off season. When they really bugle, around mid-August, it starts to ramp up and it goes well into November. And that's the breeding period, with September and early October being the peak for elk-bull communication. Of course, to strike up that elk conversation and talk intelligently back to them, even to hear that response out there or hear their communication, you've got to be able to hear them, right? Well, for older hunters, you know, like me, our hearing isn't what it used to be. All that shooting, mowing the lawn, maybe loud noises in your career, they haven't done your ears any favors. What's really at stake here, it's a lost opportunity. All right, bud. Good job. That's Kayser Tag Team Elk. You've got to return your calls at least in the same manner as the elk are speaking to you, or ramp up the intensity. Now, if you're missing that whole thing through poor hearing, you're going to miss out on success. Fortunately, TETRA, they have created AmpPods for hearing enhancement, and they are a true wonder in the elk woods. TETRA has 3 different series for their hearing enhancement products. The first is the Alpha Shield, and that's for if you're going to do a lot of shooting, like at clay sports, upland hunting, waterfowling, and it works good for suppressing sound. They also make a custom series that'll custom fit your ear and custom focus on the hunting that you're going to do. Their AmpPods, that's the one though. They're comfortable, they fit into your ear, and they have those set up for turkey, deer, and the ones I'm using right here, elk. Now, what makes them so unique is not the fact that, well, yeah, they'll suppress sound when a gunshot goes off, but they have been digitized to focus on the frequencies you hear in elk hunting, the elk communication frequencies. So they pick those out, accentuate them, localize so you can hear where it's coming from, but then every other sound is pure and natural. And you can just tap your ear and it can change different settings very easily. High, medium, low, and clear comms, so you can get right back to hearing your buddies that are right beside you. So if your hearing isn't what it used to be, well, TETRA has the first pursuit-based hearing enhancement product. That's a game changer, especially when you're out here in pursuit of DIY elk on public land.